Hey everyone, this is Athletes and Antiquities. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing and contrasting all of the main grading companies in sports cards and Pokemon right now. I'm going to be telling you guys why some might be better than others in certain situations, and kind of just how to navigate this whole competition you see between some of the main companies. So the reason why I'm making this video is there's been a lot of talk on subreddits and things like E4 about certain grading companies, like if you're using CGC for high-level Pokemon, or if you're using SGC for whatever sports card, or PSA for whatever. There's always a debate in the comments section on, why are you using that company? This company's better. You're wasting your money. I got a bad return from this company, so this company sucks. All this kind of all this competition you see between all of these companies. And I just want to break down, as somebody who owns a few cards of most of these brands, I want to talk about, if you're going to submit, where the best company is for you based on what you're submitting. Because depending on what you're submitting, the answer could be any of these you see here plus some others. So the first one I want to get into is BGS. I'm getting into BGS, or Beckett, first because I personally don't own any Beckett. And also, I think they're the company I would submit to last. And basically, the only benefit I see of Beckett is in the black label. If you're not aware, the black label is their pristine grade. They have subgrades. They have 4 subgrades on all their cards. And the only way to get a black label is to get a 10 in all 4 of those categories. I'll put up a black label on the screen here so you can look at it. But they're so strict about giving out those 10s that black labels are like a needle in a haystack. But because of that, they command a huge value. There's certain cards where there's only 1 or 2 or a handful of black labels. So whereas a PSA 10 may cost $100, a black label could cost $500 or $1,000, because it's that astronomically small of a chance to get that grade. But personally, I don't value the black label very much. If you do, and if you want, I want the most pristine card possible, that's where the value of the black label comes in. So if you have a card that you think is absolutely perfect, and I mean absolutely perfect, that's the only situation I would personally grade with Beckett. I think their cases are clunky, they're kind of brittle from what I've seen, but they do look nice. They have that metal sheen to their flip at the top where the number is, and it does have a high presentation value. But if you're not getting the black label, I just personally don't see a benefit. That's for sports, that's for Pokemon, that's for everything. And side note, if I remember, I'm actually gonna link a video by Pokemon Flying Master in the comments. It's an older video about the black label, because he does a really good job diving in on why he thinks the black label is a little bit contrived. So that's BGS out of the way. And now I'm going to talk about the companies that I actually do buy from. I've only submitted to PSA. I've never submitted to the 2 on the left here, but I do have some cards from all these companies. So I'm going to show them and kind of compare and contrast why I think you might want to grade with this company. So first up is SGC. People call it the tuxedo gray case, because of the black. The black with the white background does look very clean. It looks great. It gives a very official look to whatever card you have, and that is one of the main draws to it. It does look very good. The grading is fairly inexpensive. I believe right now you can get it for about $25, I think, and it's about a 3-month turnaround. Don't quote me on that cost right now, because that could be a little bit off, but it's about $25, I believe, and it's about a few week turnaround, so it's very fast. You can get your cards back very quickly. And while there is a great presentation value, the only time I would personally grade with SGC is for vintage sports. And I want to say, this is all my opinion. If you want your whatever card, modern sport, Pokemon card, whatever you want in an SGC label, go for it. Grade it. Same with BGS. But this is, in my opinion, I would only grade vintage sports with SGC. And the hobby kind of accepts, the hobby kind of acknowledges SGC as the expert in vintage sports. If you're submitting T206, pre-war baseball, early 40s, 30s, 20s baseball, football, whatever. Those are the cards that people tend to put in SGC cases because this company tends to be the best at authenticating and grading those vintage cards. There's a reason why some of the top selling Honus Wagners are all in SGC cases. The finest known example, one that just sold for like whatever, $12 million, whatever it was, that was in an SGC case. All those vintage cards are very trusted with SGC. So if you have some of those Grail cards or even some of those less expensive vintage sports, SGC, personally, that's where I would go. Now you have CGC here. CGC, some of the benefits of CGC. So if you've never seen a CGC, or if you've never held a CGC case before, it has more rounded corners than a PSA or an SGC. SGC has probably the sharpest, the most like right angle. There's a little bit of a point on the corners. CGC is very rounded, it's like very beveled, and PSA is a little bit less so, but it still has that round on it. You can't see because it's in a little case, which probably isn't the best. I probably should have taken it out beforehand, but yeah, so more rounded corners. And one benefit of CGC is, in my opinion, they have the clearest case. So in all these, obviously there's plastic on the front and the back of the card. It's sonically sealed in a case. And from my experience, CGC is the clearest. If you want to see like the most high definition version of your card, CGC I think offers you that. There's a little bit of cloudiness, not very much at all. I want to emphasize this is a very small difference. It's not like you're looking through like a foggy glass with like a PSA, but it's the plastic is a little bit less clear. Very slight, but it is noticeable. So if you need that, if that slight clarity matters a lot to you, then CGC is your company. But some other reasons I would grade the CGC. First off is turnaround times. If you want to grade a card purely to resell, you're just trying to flip it, you're trying to churn lots of cheap cards, CGC is your company. They're cheap, they're very cheap to grade. I believe it's about $13 or $14 to grade. Again, please don't quote me on that. That could be very wrong, but I believe it's cheaper than PSA. Oh, I know it's cheaper than PSA, but I believe it's to that degree. And they also have very fast turnaround times. Again, you can get your cards back in just a few weeks. So if you buy a whole lot of cards and you want to grade them all real fast, put them back on the market real fast, CGC is your company for that. And that's what people tend to do. A lot of people will send lots of cards to CGC and then have those cards go right to PWCC, send them right to their vault, and they sell from their vault. That's one way to do things. And one other benefit of CGC is they have the best history with error cards. When there's one-off errors, like there's a crimp on the card, if there's a factory mark, certain hollow errors, hollow shifts, stuff like that, all of those CGC recognizes, where a company like PSA just docks the grade. Like this one, a good example, this is an inverted back Mew. While the inverted back is popular enough that PSA recognizes it too, this is just an example. There are lots of very niche items that CGC does recognize that PSA does not. They also, you can do custom pedigrees with CGC, where if you want, like the famous one is the washing machine Charizard that, I forget what influencer had that card. It was a very popular on like TikTok, I believe, where that girl had her Charizard go through the wash. CGC recognized it as like the washing machine Charizard, and now it's being auctioned off for charity. So with things like that, if you want a pedigree in a card, like, hey, card that I opened with my father or whatever, if you want that pedigree, some special moment to remember, CGC can put that on the back. It would be like on the back here, identifying it, it would just say like pedigree on the front. So that's another great option for CGC. And now for PSA. And my answer for PSA is everything else. And by that I mean PC, long-term holds, more valuable items, all those things I would grade with PSA. If you don't care about the turnaround time, like personally I don't, PSA is your guy. I buy cards to sell, but I don't need a fast turnaround, so the benefit of the CGC turnaround isn't really ideal for me. PSA is the hobby established king of grading, and it's for good reason. People always complain about consistency, but their consistency is honestly very good. People just highlight certain bad cards, like out of the millions that are graded, they'll show you, oh, look at this atrocious grade. Now everyone hates on PSA. PSA, I've graded hundreds of cards. PSA is very consistent. I don't want to say more than another company because I think they're all very good, but to say that it's not consistent is kind of a fallacy. So they're very consistent. They have the best pop report. This is very important. When people are saying, oh, how rare is this item? They reference pop report. And all these companies have pop reports, but none of them are as good as PSAs. Ones like BGS are like barely usable. SGCs and CGCs, they're fleshed out, but not nearly to the extent of PSA. PSA's pop report is like the industry standard. Everyone references, oh, how many PSA 10s of that card there are. No one says, oh, how many SGC 10s are there of the Rayquaza illustration collection? Like, no one says that. It's how many PSA 10s are in the registry or in the report. And that's very important, and that keeps PSA. It's one of the reasons that it holds a lot of value. And another reason is they have the highest premium. Part of because they're the most respected. If you want to sell a card for the highest price, you want to go with PSA. And this is, again, if you're willing to wait that time, like I am personally, I only grade with PSA with my own cards because I don't mind that wait. I don't care that it takes me 6 months to get that $18 submission back because I'm in no rush. Whenever they come back, I'll throw them on eBay, I'll sell them for a profit, I'll keep some PC items, but I don't mind that. So that's why I think PSA will maintain its sizable lead. I'm going to put up on the screen some data right now from GemRate. I didn't make this data myself, but this compares how much is being graded by each company comparatively over the weeks and the months. And this just shows you how dominant PSA is. So shout out to GemRate. They're a phenomenal Instagram. You definitely check them out. Gives you great insight on the hobby and how grading is going. But that's pretty much all I have to say about the different companies. One thing I do want to note is a size difference here. If you're like me, the size of the case is very important to you. I keep them all together. So if the sizes don't match up, I don't like that. So SGC is the gray goose. SGC is bigger than these other two cases. So when you're putting them all together, they don't mesh well. You can't lock them in. But PSA and CGC, obviously PSA is tight, can be tightly compacted with other PSA, and CGC can be put closely together with other CGC. They all fit nicely, but they actually fit together too. A CGC card, we'll see. I have a case. I'm actually just gonna take this out. So I'll put another one back on. I could have just grabbed a card that wasn't in a case because now you have to watch this horrible unboxing. But these cards actually lock together. See that? They're locked together. And you can move them apart, but they sit nicely there until you like really force them off. And same thing, other way back, they lock together until you like really jostle it. But with SGC, the case for SGC is bigger, so it doesn't fit nicely in it, which is honestly a pretty big downside. If you have a whole big collection, you can't stack them very easily. So most people tend to collect like CGC and PSA or just SGC or something, just so like their collection is consistent. But let me know what you think. What do you think about grading? Do you prefer one company or the other over the other? Do you think there's going to be a market share shift coming up, or do you think one of these companies can dethrone PSA? Personally, I don't think that will happen, but I'd love to hear your opinion if you disagree. And yeah, just let me know your thoughts. And as always, if you have an idea for a video you'd like to see, let me know. Shoot me a comment, and I'll try and make it happen. I'll give you credit for it. Thanks. Bye.